Hi Math Aid students, this is Mrs. Hazel and I'm going to be teaching you guys a lesson for the week of May 11th. This week we're still going to be working with slope intercept form, but we are going to be given the slope and the y-intercept, and I want you to be able to put it into the equation. I'm going to also give you a graph with a straight line, and I want you to be able to write an equation from that graph. So two things today. You have a worksheet that has 18 problems on it. I am doing 8 of them with you, so you really only have to do 10 of them on your own. But we also give you the answer key too, so that's a good thing. All right, so on your worksheet, the first 4 problems I'm going to do with you, 1 through 4. And number 1, it gives you the slope of 1/2, and it gives you the y-intercept of a -3. Hopefully you can see this okay. My blue marker's kind of running out on me. Okay, so here is the slope-intercept form equation on how it looks, like the outline of it. And what we're going to do is we're going to plug in the number in for M and the number in for B. So slope and y-intercept. All right, so for this one, I'm going to put in y equals, so the 1/2 is going to go right here in front of the x. So 1/2 x, and then plus, and then my y-intercept is a -3. So I put -3. Now you can leave it like this, but most of the time it's going to be written without the plus. You're going to just write it as a subtraction. So you would write it as y equals 1/2 x minus 3. I guess we could say that would be the most correct way to write it. One of the things that kids mess up on sometimes when they're writing out the equation is they forget to put the x behind the slope. So that's just something that you can't forget, that you always have to have your y and your x in your slope-intercept form when you're writing it out. Okay, number 2, you have a slope of -2 and a y-intercept of -1. So I would write y equals -2x plus a -1. Once again, you can write it as plus -1, but that wouldn't be the most correct way to write it. So I would write it as y equals -2x minus 1. I hope you guys can read this. I'm trying to squeeze in all these problems in at once just to try to cut down on my time. Okay, so that's number 1 and number 2. Number 3, notice that they give us a slope of 0. Okay, so let's still plug that in. So it would be y equals 0x plus 2. And what happens when you take 0 times x? Well, they cancel out. So actually, technically, you would write it as y equals 2. That would be your official correct answer. Now, I don't know if you guys remember from last week, but when it says y equals 2 and you have a slope of 0, we know that's going to be a horizontal line. So just to refresh your memory on that. All right, number 4, your slope is a -4 and your y-intercept's a 0. So we're going to go y equals -4x plus 0. Now do we have to write it as plus 0? No. So we would just write it as y equals -4x. We don't have to write it with a plus 0. Okay, so that is the first 4 problems on your worksheet. So you would have to do numbers 5 through 8, and they should look like this. All right, so let's move on to numbers 9 through 12. Those you're going to be given a graph. So let me erase this real quick. And I'm going to draw 2 graphs, and I'm going to try to do 2 problems for each graph. That way cut down on time so that I'm not getting up into 17, 18 minutes like sometimes I like to do. Okay, so number 9. Here's my graph for this. And you're already given a graph. I'm not going to write numbers because I'm assuming you guys can count up and down. Okay, so the first line that you are given, it goes through right here on the y-axis, and it goes through kind of up here. So I'm going to just draw a line like this. Okay, so you have to write this in slope intercept form. Well, the first thing that is going to be easy to identify is your y-intercept, okay? Because it's wherever that line is going through the y-axis. So in this case, my y-intercept is going to be a -1. Now you need to figure out the slope. And this is the trickier part because you need to pick a point on this line that's crossing through the grids. And what I mean by that is when you have on your worksheet, now obviously on my whiteboard I don't have it, you have graph grids. You have the lines that are going down and lines going across. You want to pick a point that goes where they intersect each other and the line is going through that. And so that point would be right here on your graph if you're looking at it. So I start down here on the y-intercept, which is at -1. I'm going to count up and then over. So from here I go up 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I go up 3, and then I go over -1. So my slope is it's 3 over -1 or -3 over 1, however you want to write it. Okay, so when I write out my equation for it, I'm not going to write it as with my slope being a fraction. I'm going to reduce that to just a -3. So when I write it, I'm going to go y equals -3x. Now I know my y-intercept's -1, so I'm just going to write it as -1. So there you go. That's number 9. Easy peasy, right? Okay. So now, let's look at the next one, number 10. Uh-oh. Please, black marker, don't run out on me. Okay, so number 10, your y-intercept is up here at 4. Your line's going to go through up here at 4. And then I kind of see where it crosses the grid right here. So this is how your line should look on your worksheet. Okay, so my y-intercept's 4, so b equals +4. Got that one down. Now my slope, I've got to start from down here and go up. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 over. So I go up 5, and then I count over 1, 2. So 5 halves. So 5 over 2, that's my slope. So then I'm going to put it into my equation. So that's going to be y equals 5 halves x plus 4. And there we go. Voila. All right. All right, so I'm going to erase this. 2 more to go. 2 more to go. I'm going to leave that. No, you know what? Actually, I'm going to erase it. I had a game plan, but I'm changing it up, and that's okay. That happens all the time. Okay, so the next one, you are going to have a horizontal line that's going through the y-axis right here at -1. Okay, so my y-intercept is going to be -1. And then if you remember with a horizontal line, I already know what my slope is. I have a 0 slope. So when I write this out, it would be y equals 0x minus 1, but we know we don't write it like that. So it would be y equals just a negative 1. And that would be your final answer. Hopefully you can see that. Okay. All right, and last one, you guys. Last but not least, you have a vertical line going through the x-axis here at 2. This is number 12. And so if you remember with a vertical line, it doesn't have a slope. The slope is undefined. So slope is oh, can I spell? Yes, I can. Slope is undefined. There's no y-intercept. So I don't know if you remember from last week, we would just write, since it's going through the x at 2, we would just write it as x equals 2. And that would be our answer. All right, kiddos, after number 12, you need to do 13 through 18, so that's 6 more problems like this. So you have the 4 problems, 5 through 8 to do, and then you have the 6 problems, 13 through 18, so that's a total of 10 problems. I think you're going to do great. All right, good luck.